The office building buzzed with urgency as employees rushed through the marble-floored halls, eyes glued to phones, voices lost in deadlines. But amid the blur of ambition, Adam Walker, the stoic CEO of a booming tech firm, paused. It wasn't a strategic insight or a new pitch that stopped him, it was a young woman in a faded blue uniform, quietly wiping down the glass near the elevators. Her movements were gentle, purposeful, and entirely unbothered by the chaos around her. For a fleeting second, their eyes met. She looked away instantly, almost embarrassed, but something about her stayed with him. Her name was Maria. Few noticed her. Fewer still knew her name. But to Adam, she became an invisible thread in his day, the person who appeared just long enough to leave peace in her wake. One afternoon, he saw her give her entire lunch to an intern too shy to ask for help. She smiled, said nothing, and walked away. Adam watched from a distance, moved. In a world where everyone wanted to be seen, she made an impact by simply being kind. From that moment on, he found himself searching for her in passing, watching how she lifted others through gestures so small they were almost sacred. Maria didn't chase attention. She offered presence. And as Adam watched her return to her quiet work each day, he began to realize that what he built in glass and steel, she upheld with grace and warmth. Later that week, in the gleaming boardroom on the top floor, Ethan Ross, the CEO of the company, sat in silence as chatter filled the room. He was young, wealthy, and sharp, known for his results, not his heart. But today, something was different. He had overheard two interns talking about a cleaner who comforted one of them during a breakdown. A cleaner. He barely knew any of their names, let alone the janitorial staff. Curiosity tugged at him, and from his glass-walled office, he watched her, Maria, from afar. He noticed how she greeted the night guards with a smile, how she placed a small box of homemade food on the receptionist's desk with a note that read, "For your back pain, turmeric helps," and how she stopped to help a delivery boy who had dropped his files. There was something disarming about her, quiet, gentle, but deeply human. She didn't seek attention, yet her kindness spread like warmth in a cold building. That evening, as most employees had left, Ethan walked up to her. She looked up, a little startled, holding her mop. He extended his hand and said, "I think you do more for this company than most people in this building." Maria blinked, unsure how to respond. Then she smiled softly and said, "I just try to leave things better than I found them." It was the first time anyone had truly seen her, and it left Ethan quietly shaken. A few days later, under a soft gray sky, Ethan found himself walking into a small corner diner just 2 blocks from the office. A place he had never noticed before. Maria was already there, seated in a booth by the window, nervously folding a napkin. He had invited her for coffee, unsure why, only knowing that something about her had stirred a part of him long buried. She greeted him with a warm nod and an unsure smile. As they sipped their drinks, the conversation began to flow, not about business, but about life. Maria spoke quietly, with pauses that held weight. She told him about her daughter, how she had passed away from a rare illness 5 years ago. Her voice cracked only once, when she mentioned how she still hummed lullabies to feel close to her. Ethan listened, stunned by the depth of her pain and the strength of her spirit. She shared how she now raises her grandson alone, working 2 jobs to make sure he stays in school. But there was no bitterness in her voice, only a quiet resilience. "Pain is heavy," she said, stirring her tea, "but kindness makes it lighter, for everyone." Ethan looked at her, feeling strangely exposed. In all his years of boardrooms, billion-dollar deals, and power, no one had ever made him feel as grounded, or as small, as this woman who had so little, yet gave so much. Something in him began to shift. The night of the company's annual gala arrived, a glittering event of champagne, speeches, and shimmering gowns. The grand hall buzzed with laughter and polished shoes tapped across the floor. Everyone expected another evening of corporate recognition, where top performers would be applauded and executives would toast each other. But this year, something was different. As the spotlight turned to the stage, Ethan Ross stepped up to the microphone. The room fell silent. His voice was calm but carried an unusual warmth. "Tonight," he said, "we honor someone whose title may say, cleaner, but whose actions have cleaned far more than floors. She's touched lives." Whispers rippled through the crowd. He called Maria's name. At first, she didn't move. Dressed in her best, a modest dress and her late daughter's scarf, she stood frozen, confused. A few colleagues nudged her gently forward. Her hands trembled as she stepped onto the stage, eyes wide. Ethan shared stories, of how she comforted a crying intern, fed the night staff, remembered birthdays, and quietly held up the broken pieces of the company's forgotten corners. The audience, once indifferent to her presence, now looked at her with awe and shame. Then came the real surprise. Ethan announced her promotion, a new role in the employee wellness department, created specifically to foster the kind of humanity she embodied daily. As applause thundered and tears slid down her cheeks, Maria whispered, "I never thought kindness could echo this loud." Months had passed, but the company no longer felt the same. The tall glass headquarters still gleamed, but now there was warmth within its walls, a quiet shift in the air. Employees smiled more. They greeted the janitors by name. The break room had a kindness board filled with notes of gratitude. And at the heart of it all was Maria. No longer in her faded uniform, she now wore a simple yet graceful suit, still modest, still Maria. She had stepped into her new role as the head of the employee wellness department with humility and quiet confidence. Her days were now spent listening, mentoring, and reminding people that being human mattered just as much as being productive. One afternoon, Ethan walked beside her through the hallway. Their steps echoed softly as they passed the janitor's closet, her old workplace. He paused and looked at it thoughtfully. "You cleaned this company in ways we never knew we needed," he said quietly. Maria smiled, not out of pride, but with deep contentment. "All it takes is love, and a little courage to share it," she replied. Outside the building, her grandson waited with his school bag, waving excitedly. She waved back, her heart full. From just a cleaner to a soul who changed a company's culture, Maria's journey wasn't built on success or titles, but on compassion. And through her, a hardened CEO discovered something he never expected to find in a corporate empire, a heart that truly led.